When a woman truly understands her worth, everything about her changes. There's a quiet confidence in the way she walks, a calm strength in her silence, and a light in her presence that can't be ignored. She doesn't feel the need to chase anyone anymore because she knows that what's meant for her will never ask her to run after it. A queen doesn't beg for attention. She draws it in naturally through her energy. Her worth isn't something others need to confirm. It's something she already knows deep within. So many people go through life chasing love, approval, and validation because they've forgotten who they are. They think being noticed means being loved. But a queen knows better. She knows love isn't about being chosen by everyone. It's about choosing yourself first. And when you do, you become magnetic to everything that truly belongs to you. You don't need to chase what's yours. You attract it by being real, by being still, by being whole. There's a quiet power in a woman who no longer tries to prove her worth. She's not loud. She's not desperate. She's not performing. Her strength comes from her peace. She doesn't explain why she's valuable. The way she treats herself shows it clearly. When you know who you are, you stop trying to convince people to see it. You just let your energy speak. And that's the truth. People feel your energy before they even understand it. When you carry yourself with self-respect, people either rise to meet you or fade away. A woman who knows her worth isn't cold or distant. She's just intentional. She knows her energy is sacred, and not everyone should have access to it. She's not afraid of walking alone for a while, because she knows solitude isn't loneliness. It's where she grows, where she remembers who she is. Chasing always comes from fear of being alone, fear of not being enough, fear of being forgotten. But when a queen knows her worth, fear loses control. She stops clinging to things that are slipping away. She stops trying to convince people to stay. She starts trusting life. She knows that what's real will stay, and when it doesn't, she lets go with grace. That's power. The ability to stay grounded even when everything feels uncertain. The moment you stop chasing, things begin to shift. You start attracting opportunities, people, and moments that truly fit who you are, because your energy has changed. You're no longer trying to be seen. You're just being. And that authenticity draws everything real toward you. People feel it. They sense your calm, your confidence, your knowing. They may not understand why they're drawn to you, but they are. Because energy never lies. A queen doesn't measure her worth by what others think. She measures it by her growth, her peace, her integrity. She honors her softness, but respects her strength. She knows when to nurture and when to walk away. Her love runs deep, but it's not desperate. Her heart is open, but it's wise. She gives because she chooses to, not because she needs to. That's what makes her love powerful. It comes from fullness, not from emptiness. Knowing your worth doesn't mean you think you're better than anyone. It means you finally understand you don't need to compare yourself to anyone. You've learned to honor your own light and never let anyone dim it. You've stopped waiting for others to see your value because you no longer need their approval to feel complete. The real recognition comes from within. It's that quiet voice that says, I am enough even when I stand alone. When a queen enters a room, her presence speaks before her words do. It's not because she's trying to be noticed. It's because she's in harmony with herself. You can feel it. Her energy is calm, centered, grounded. She's not chasing validation. She's radiating self-respect. She doesn't try to blend in because she knows she wasn't made to. Her energy creates its own space. That's what makes her unforgettable. There comes a moment in every queen's journey when she realizes her worth was never something she needed to find. It was something she had to remember. And when she remembers, everything changes. She stops waiting. She stops chasing. She stops doubting. She starts living fully, boldly, and unapologetically. She stops looking for love outside and starts growing it within. That inner love becomes her foundation. It's so steady that no rejection can shake it. She rises not because she fought harder, but because she stopped fighting herself. She no longer needs people to see her, to choose her, to validate her. She knows being the queen of her life starts with making peace with herself. Because when you truly know your worth, you don't need to chase anything. You simply choose. And that's where your true power begins. When you chase someone, what you're really saying is, I'm not enough on my own. You might not say it out loud, but your energy does. With every text, every step, every attempt to be noticed. Chasing comes from fear of being forgotten, fear of losing, fear of not being worthy. And when fear leads, love can't breathe. Real love can only live where fear ends. The act of chasing isn't about someone else. It's about how you feel inside. When you chase, you leave yourself behind. You hand over your peace, your power, your happiness to someone else. You tell yourself, if they finally see me, I'll feel complete. But that moment never truly comes because the person you're chasing isn't them. It's the version of you that thought love had to be earned. A queen doesn't chase because she's healed that wound. She knows chasing is born from insecurity. It happens when we forget our value and try to find it in someone else's reflection. She doesn't run after affection because she knows love built on pursuit never lasts. You can't chase love into existence. If it must be chased, it will always stay just out of reach. But something beautiful happens when you stop chasing. You breathe again. You stop wondering what they're thinking, why they haven't replied, or whether they miss you. Your attention comes home to yourself. You fill the space you once tried to fill with someone else. You notice your own rhythm, your own peace. And that peace becomes magnetic. People can feel when you no longer need them to make you whole. They feel your calm confidence. When you chase, you drain your energy. You start overgiving, overthinking, overanalyzing, trying to make things work. You forget that what's real doesn't need to be forced. Love, when it's true, doesn't run. It flows towards you naturally, but only when you stop trying to control it. Insecurity whispers lies. It says if you stop trying, they'll forget you. If you let go, you'll lose them. But the truth is, if letting go makes someone disappear, they were never yours to begin with. Real love doesn't fade when the chase ends. It deepens when space exists. It's not the chase that keeps people close. It's connection, peace, and honesty. There's something magnetic about someone who doesn't chase. It's not arrogance, it's trust. It's the quiet energy that says, I'm not afraid to lose what's not mine. When you move from love, not fear, you attract from a different place. You stop convincing others of your worth and start living it. And when you live it, it shows. You become a mirror of peace. And peace is irresistible. Sometimes you have to sit in silence long enough to remember who you are without the chase. To realize your heart doesn't need to run after love. It needs to rest in it. And that rest begins with you. You can't ask someone to stay when you haven't stayed true to yourself. You can't expect someone to choose you when you've abandoned your own heart. There's freedom in surrendering the chase. It's like putting down a heavy weight. You stop measuring your worth by how someone responds or how often they reach out. You start measuring it by your peace, your boundaries, your calm. That's when things truly shift. When you stop chasing, the people meant for you will feel it. They'll notice the change. You're no longer pulling, you're just being. And that presence pulls stronger than any chase ever could. Because love recognizes truth. It comes to those who no longer search outside themselves. So stop running, stop proving, stop performing. You don't need to. You were never meant to chase. You were meant to be still, to know your worth, to trust your energy, and to allow what's real to meet you where you are. Because the one who truly loves you will never need to be chased. They'll recognize your light and walk toward it. That's when love begins. Not when you chase, but when you choose peace over pursuit. And choosing doesn't come from pride or ego. It comes from awareness. When a queen chooses, she's not rejecting anyone, she's honoring her peace. She's not running from love, she's choosing the kind of love that matches who she has become. And that, right there, is the quiet power of a woman who knows her worth. You begin to see that not everyone deserves a seat at your table, and that being selective isn't cruelty, it's wisdom. Choosing is an act of self-respect. It means you're no longer swayed by appearances, by short-lived charm, or by temporary attention. You're guided by energy, by intention, by consistency. You no longer crave the thrill of being wanted. You seek the peace of being understood. A queen doesn't have to prove her worth to anyone because she already knows it. She looks at life through truth, not illusion. And with that clarity, she chooses peace over drama, self-respect over approval, and alignment over attachment. The ego says, I'll show them what they lost. Power says, I'm not available for what doesn't serve me. There's a quiet difference between reacting and recognizing. When you react, you move from pain, you try to protect your pride, prove that you're unbothered, or stay in control. But when you act from recognition, you move with grace. You understand what belongs in your life and what doesn't. You don't need to explain or justify. You simply choose, and your silence becomes your message. People often confuse choosing with rejecting, but they are not the same. Rejection is born from fear, fear of being open, of being hurt again. Choosing, however, comes from alignment. It's not about closing doors. It's about knowing your boundaries. A queen doesn't shut people out because she's scared. She chooses carefully because she's aware. She knows what her energy costs, and she spends it where it grows, not where it burns. When you live from this kind of clarity, life becomes lighter. You stop forcing yourself into spaces that don't fit your energy. You stop explaining yourself to those who've already decided not to understand. You stop giving endlessly to those who only take. You stop fighting for attention in rooms where your soul feels unseen. Instead, you start attracting peace. Because choosing isn't just about people. It's about spaces, conversations, and experiences that either drain or feed your spirit. The power to choose is born in stillness, in the pause before you react. When you listen to your intuition instead of your insecurity, you begin to notice how your energy shifts around certain people. That awareness becomes your inner compass. You realize that peace is your own responsibility, not a gift from others. So you begin to protect it, not with walls, but not with fear, but with love. Choosing isn't always easy. Sometimes it means walking away from something that once felt like home. Sometimes it means accepting that love can exist without lasting forever, and that not everyone who enters your life is meant to stay. But every choice rooted in truth brings you closer to yourself. Every time you choose peace over chaos, you come back home. Every time you say no to what doesn't align, you open space for what truly does. And here's the beauty of it. When you start choosing with intention, life responds. The moment you stop settling for less, the universe stops testing you and starts rewarding you. Because your choices are signals. Energetic messages that tell life what you believe you deserve. When you choose yourself, you attract others who do the same. You call in relationships that feel balanced, not heavy. Conversations that feel nurturing, not draining. Opportunities that match your vibration because you finally stand fully in it. There's a deep calm that comes when you stop chasing, when you stop begging, when you stop waiting for others to recognize what you already know. That's not loneliness, it's liberation. It's the shift from reacting to the world to responding to your soul. That's what true choice feels like. Quiet knowing that you don't have to force what's meant for you. What's yours will feel steady, natural, real. When a queen chooses, she's not saying, "You're not enough." She's saying, "I've worked too hard to lose myself again." Her choices aren't about exclusion. They're about preservation. Because she understands that her peace is her kingdom, and she will not hand its keys to anyone who cannot value it. She still chooses love, but with awareness. She chooses connection, but only when it's mutual. She gives, but only where her giving is honored, not expected. That's what separates her from those who chase. She doesn't seek approval. She seeks alignment. She doesn't follow where her energy feels drained. She moves where her spirit feels alive. To choose is to trust yourself. To believe that you are enough. That you can walk away without fear. That you can stand still and let what's meant for you arrive. It means you stop letting life just happen to you. You start shaping it with intention. That's the quiet revolution of self-worth. That's why queens don't chase, they choose. Before a queen even speaks, her energy speaks for her. It's not in her tone or her clothes. It's deeper than that. It's in the frequency she carries wherever she goes. You can feel it when she enters a room. Calm, steady, self-assured. She doesn't need to prove her worth. Her stillness says it all. Her silence carries power because it comes from knowing who she is, not from needing to explain. That kind of energy can't be faked. It's built slowly through truth. When you live in alignment with yourself, when you know your worth and protect your peace, something changes. You start to radiate a different kind of energy. You don't have to talk about it. People feel it. They notice you're calm. They see that you're no longer reacting, no longer chasing validation, no longer lowering your energy to fit someone else's. You've become intentional with your presence. That's what makes your energy magnetic. Focused, not scattered. Energy always speaks before words. You can tell when someone is desperate, performing, or trying too hard. And you can tell when someone is grounded, peaceful, and sure. It shows in their eyes, their body, the way they move through life. That's why queens don't chase. They know that real attraction isn't about effort. It's about alignment. You don't pull things towards you by chasing them. You draw them in by becoming what you seek. There comes a moment in every woman's journey when she realizes her energy is her greatest currency. Words can deceive. Looks can mislead, but energy never lies. When your energy is rooted in self-worth, it becomes your boundary, your protection, your power. It naturally filters out what doesn't belong and welcomes what does. You don't have to explain your standards. They're felt. The wrong people feel uneasy around your peace, not because you judge them, but because your calm reveals their chaos. The right ones, though, will feel safe and inspired by your authenticity. When your energy is clear, you stop chasing love, approval, or attention. You attract it effortlessly. You don't have to defend your boundaries. They're obvious. You don't have to prove your intentions. They're visible in your presence. You don't have to demand respect. Your energy commands it. That's the silent power of alignment. It speaks louder than words. To live that way, you have to learn energy awareness. To know when to engage and when to step back. Not every situation deserves your reaction. Not every argument needs your voice. Not every person deserves your effort. There's wisdom in restraint. There's strength in silence. The queen knows this. She knows that sometimes silence says more than words, and absence speaks where presence once tried to explain. Your energy becomes the loudest when you stop trying to control everything. When you let life unfold naturally. Because energy flows where peace lives. The more you push, the more resistance you create. But when you trust yourself, when you move with intention and ease, your energy becomes magnetic. People start to feel your calm confidence, not because you're doing something big, but because peace is rare in a noisy world. When you understand the language of energy, you stop trying to convince others of your worth. You stop explaining why you deserve love or respect. You stop chasing those who can't meet you halfway. You let your energy say what words cannot. If someone can't feel your presence, they were never meant to experience your essence. You don't force connections. You align with them. Energy never lies. It speaks truth before your mind can catch up. You can't fake peace. You can't fake confidence. That's why inner work is the real attraction. When you heal, when you forgive, when you release what's heavy, your energy clears. And in that clarity, you attract clarity. When you're grounded, you draw in grounded people. When you're peaceful, you draw in peace. When you're sure of your worth, you attract love that recognizes it. Words can only go so far. People might forget what you said, but they'll always remember how they felt in your presence. That feeling, that energy is what stays. It shapes your relationships, your path, your life. That's why your energy is your message to the world. Before you ever speak, it says, I am home. I am calm. I know who I am. And everything that responds to you will echo that truth. A queen doesn't shout to be heard or chase to be seen. She doesn't explain her worth or defend her peace. She simply stands in her energy. Knowing it will attract what belongs and release what doesn't. Her calm is her crown. Her stillness is her strength. She doesn't need to convince anyone of her value. She simply lives it. Her energy already speaks for her. That's why she never chases. Her energy leads the way. Letting go is one of the most misunderstood kinds of strength. Many think holding on is proof of love. That persistence keeps something alive. But a queen knows that clinging isn't love. It's fear pretending to be devotion. She understands that letting go isn't losing, it's trusting. Trusting the rhythm of life, trusting the timing of things, trusting herself. Letting go doesn't mean she stopped caring. It means she now values her peace more than her pain. There comes a moment when you realize not everything or everyone you love is meant to stay. Some people come into your life to wake something within you, to teach a lesson, to show where healing is needed. They're not meant to walk the full journey with you. And that's okay. The queen has learned to release with grace what no longer matches her growth. She doesn't hold on just because there's history. She's learned that not all history is worth reliving. Some stories must end so new ones can begin. The truth is, the more you hold on to what's falling apart, the more you lose yourself. You start fighting reality, trying to control what isn't yours to control, forcing connection where flow has faded. But love that must be forced isn't love, it's attachment. And attachment keeps you stuck in pain because it convinces you peace lives in possession. The queen knows real peace comes from surrender. She understands that what's meant for her will never require chasing, begging, or fighting. It will meet her in stillness, not struggle. Letting go doesn't make her cold or detached. It makes her wise. She's learned that closure doesn't always come in words, and healing doesn't always bring answers. Sometimes closure is simply accepting the story ended differently than you hoped. Sometimes healing means forgiving without receiving an apology. It's choosing peace over replaying old wounds. Letting go isn't forgetting. It's remembering without pain. It's looking back with gratitude, not resentment. The queen doesn't let go because she's given up. She lets go because she's grown. She no longer carries what weighs her down. She's learned that love without respect is chaos and affection without consistency is confusion. She stopped romanticizing potential and started honoring patterns. She doesn't chase promises, she watches actions. When she sees something no longer feeds her soul, she releases it. Not with bitterness, but with blessing. because she knows every loss creates space for something greater to arrive. It takes courage to let go. It means facing emptiness, sitting in silence, standing in the space once filled by another. But that space is sacred. That silence is where she meets herself again, where she rediscovers her strength, her identity, her truth. When she stops trying to fill the void with what left, she fills it with her own energy. And that's where transformation begins. That's where the queen rises. When you hold on too tightly, you block life's natural flow. You stop new experiences from entering. You get trapped in what was instead of opening to what could be. Letting go is an act of faith. Trusting that life knows what it's doing, even when you don't. Trusting that endings aren't punishments, but redirections. Every time she lets go, the queen proves her peace is not up for negotiation. She knows peace isn't something you find, it's something you protect. Letting go is also an act of love, the purest kind. It honors another person's journey too. It doesn't cage or control. It says, I release you to walk your path, just as I must walk mine. There's dignity in that. Grace in not forcing what no longer flows. Beauty in closing a chapter without bitterness. The queen knows love without freedom isn't love. It's possession. And possession destroys peace. You can't receive with clenched fists. You can't move forward while dragging the past. When you release what weighs you down, life moves again. The right people, the right energy, the right opportunities all begin to find you. Letting go clears space for alignment. It opens your heart to what truly belongs. The queen knows what falls away was never hers to keep. She doesn't fight the current. She flows with it. Her strength lies in her surrender. Not because she's weak, but because she trusts life's rhythm. She knows what's meant for her will always recognize her energy in return without force. Until then, she remains calm, centered, and whole. The art of letting go is her crown. It keeps her graceful through endings and beginnings. She wears her peace like armor, not to guard herself, but to ground herself. She no longer sees loss as punishment, but as preparation. Every goodbye refines her, reminds her of her strength, and brings her closer to herself. That's why the queen never fears what leaves, because she knows what's meant for her will always stay. A queen doesn't compete, she creates. Her power was never about measuring herself against others. She doesn't waste energy comparing, copying, or proving. Her focus is inward, not outward. While others are lost in the noise of comparison, she quietly builds something that can't be copied, herself. She knows what's truly hers can't be taken, and what isn't meant for her can't be forced. That's why she moves through life with calm certainty, not restless urgency. Comparison steals peace. The moment you look sideways, you lose sight of your own path. You start to believe someone else's light dims yours, that their progress delays your own. But the queen knows the universe is abundant. She doesn't see others as competition because she's too busy evolving. Her success doesn't come from outshining others. It comes from refining herself. Her only real competition is the woman she was yesterday. Competing comes from scarcity. Creating comes from abundance. When you create, you realize there's space for everyone to rise. You stop chasing someone else's spotlight and start building your own light from within. That light can't be dimmed, stolen, or copied. It's yours. The queen doesn't need to shout about her progress. Her energy speaks quietly but powerfully. Her consistency is her confidence. Creation, whether it's peace, love, purpose, or art, is sacred. It's a reflection of who you are. When you create from your soul, you give meaning to your life. And when life feels meaningful, competition fades because the goal isn't to be better than others. It's to be true to yourself. The queen's power lies in creation because creation is authenticity. It's born from truth lessons and experience, not imitation. That's what makes her presence real. The energy of competition says, I must prove I'm enough. The energy of creation says, I already am. One comes from fear, the other from awareness. One drains you, the other fills you. When you shift from competing to creating, life flows differently. You stop seeking approval. You stop trying to be seen. You work in silence, trusting your results to speak in time. You understand no one can take what's meant for you, not because you're better, but because it's yours by design. A queen doesn't waste breath explaining her vision to those who can't see it. She doesn't compete with people on different paths. She simply creates because creation is the highest form of expression. When you're creating, you don't rush or defend. You trust. You move knowing your purpose unfolds when it's ready. The world may not understand your silence, your patience, or your pace, but creation often happens quietly. Seeds grow in darkness before they bloom in light. Competing scatters energy, creating focuses it. When you create, you're present in your journey, guided by peace, not pressure. That's why the queen doesn't chase trends or validation. She builds her own path. She doesn't envy others' chapters because she knows her story will unfold in its own divine timing. There's beauty in that calm confidence. It's not loud, it's steady. It says, I don't need to compete for what's already mine. That's not ego, it's awareness. When you understand your path is yours alone, you stop wasting energy outrunning others. You start celebrating them, not fearing them. Their success inspires you instead of threatening you. That's what creation does. It turns jealousy into motivation and competition into collaboration. The queen knows creation isn't just about building things. It's about creating energy. She creates peace where others bring chaos. She creates clarity where there's confusion. She creates love in a world that forgets how to feel. Her energy transforms spaces because she's guided by purpose, not comparison. Every step, word, and choice she makes is intentional and aligned with truth. She doesn't rush to prove or beg to be noticed. She doesn't fight for validation. She knows creation itself is the reward. Building something beautiful. A dream, a bond, or inner peace is fulfillment in itself. When you find fulfillment within, you stop searching for it outside. You no longer compete because you've already won the only race that matters, the one against who you used to be. In a world that glorifies comparison, it takes courage to create, to look inward when others look outward, to move with patience when the world demands speed. That's what makes the queen different. Her strength lives in her calm. Her progress isn't measured in applause, but in peace. She knows her purpose isn't to be better than anyone else. It's to be fully herself. And that's why she never competes. She's too busy creating a life that reflects who she truly is.